Hello, everyone, and welcome to Life Classroom, the classroom where we learn valuable lessons from life's journey together. Today, our classroom will introduce us to a feeling I believe many of us have experienced. That is the fear of failure. Think about it for a moment. Has there ever been a time when you wanted to start something new, but a small voice inside you whispered, "What if it doesn't work out?" Or, "What if people laugh at me?" And you suddenly stopped in your tracks? This fear isn't just frightening in our minds. Sometimes it becomes a wall that prevents us from doing what we want to do, or even from becoming who we want to be. Some people even choose not to take any action at all, believing that if they don't try, they won't fail. But in reality, not taking action is the true failure. We don't learn, we don't grow, and most importantly, we don't give ourselves the chance to live the life we dream of. The fear of failure might seem scary, but in reality, it's just a shadow that we've created ourselves. And when we bravely face it, we'll find that it's not as terrifying as we thought. Today, Life Classroom invites all of you to understand the fear of failure and learn how to overcome it together. Because our lives are too valuable to let the shadow of fear obscure them. If you're ready, let's enter our Life Classroom for the lesson titled The Fear of Failure and How to Overcome It. First and foremost, I want you to imagine something. Let's say there's a small room inside your mind where the failure you're afraid of resides. Sometimes this room might be dark, because we've allowed fear to cover it. The fear of failure doesn't just appear out of nowhere. It usually has several contributing factors. The first factor, past experiences. If we have failed in the past, whether in school, at work, or in relationships, the pain that followed might still linger in our hearts and make us afraid to face it again. The second factor, comparison with others. In an era of social media, we often only see the successes of others. This makes us unconsciously compare ourselves to them. And when we see that we're not as good as someone else, we become even more afraid of failing. The third factor is unrealistically high expectations. Sometimes we set standards for ourselves that are so high that we feel if we can't meet them, it means we have failed. In reality, no one needs to be perfect all the time. The fear of failure is like a shadow. The more we run from it, the more it chases us. And the more we think of it as scary, the scarier it will appear. The first thing we must do when facing this fear is to change our perspective. Instead of seeing failure as an end point, try to see it as the starting point for learning and growth. Accepting that failure is a part of life is like turning on the light in the dark room in our minds. And when we see failure clearly, we'll find that it's just a lesson that comes with pain, but it's not a scary end at all. Once we understand the shadow of failure, we're ready to move on to the next step. All right, now that we know where the fear of failure comes from, it's time to use some tools that will help us face it. Step 1, redefine failure. When we were young, we were taught that getting a low grade was a failure and losing a competition was a failure. But as we grow up, we have to redefine failure for ourselves. Failure isn't making a mistake. True failure is not taking action. When we change the definition, our perspective changes. Instead of being afraid of making a mistake, we'll be afraid of not trying something new. And when we're afraid of not trying, that's the motivation that makes us brave enough to take action. Step 2, start with a tiny step. The fear of failure often makes us see a situation as bigger and scarier than it is. For example, if you want to start an online business, but fear tells you, don't start, it's too difficult. Try to break down that scary picture into smaller, manageable steps. Instead of looking at the whole scary picture, set a tiny goal that you can realistically do today. If you want to start an online business, your tiny step today could just be jotting down product ideas or creating a social media page without doing anything else. Just by taking that first small step, you've already defeated fear. Taking things one step at a time will help you slowly build confidence, and as your confidence grows, your fear will naturally decrease. Step 3. Take action while you're still afraid. Many people wait for the fear to disappear before they take action, but the truth is, fear doesn't just disappear. It will only fade as we take action. Think about it. If we never get into a swimming pool, we'll be afraid of swimming our entire lives. But when we are brave enough to get into the pool, even if we're still scared, we've started to learn how to swim. And once we start to swim, the fear will slowly fade away. Remember this, taking action is the best medicine for fear. Because once we take action, we'll find that the fear we once thought was so big is actually just a shadow created because we weren't willing to turn on the light for ourselves. The most important lesson from overcoming the fear of failure isn't just about doing what you want to do, it's about growing in the process. Failure is like a classroom with painful lessons, but it's also the classroom where we can learn the most. When we fail, we don't just feel bad. We learn what went wrong, we see our weaknesses that need to be developed, and we see that we are stronger than we thought. Learning from failure doesn't mean blaming ourselves, but rather accepting that we made a mistake and forgiving ourselves, and starting again in a wiser way. Think about successful business people. They have experienced failure many more times than the average person, but they didn't give up. They used failure as a lesson to improve and develop themselves for the better. So failure isn't an end point, but a part of the journey to success. And when we understand this, we'll be brave enough to try new things, to take more risks, and to be the person we want to be. I hope everyone has the courage to fail in their own way. Today, our life classroom has learned a vital lesson about the fear of failure. We've learned that failure is just a shadow that we can overcome by changing our perspective and taking action, no matter how much fear we have to face. And, most importantly, we've learned that failure is a valuable lesson, not an end to our lives. Because life is like a classroom where we have to solve difficult problems from time to time, and whenever we can't solve them, we can always come back to this life classroom to learn and find the answers together. I hope everyone has a great day, and I hope you have the courage to take a step forward every day. See you next time in Life Classroom. Goodbye.